that knew about those people. That wasn't that night.
No, we talked about it before. Just bullshitting around. I wonder how much money he's got or something like that.
But it wasn't a phone call saying, "Okay, everybody get to the house," or "Don't go over there tonight."
No, not like that. Well, we called him on that, and that's when we asked him, and he was kind of like guided us where we needed to go
that night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're talking to him on the phone that night about how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I don't think he knew exactly what was going down at first either.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Are you having a conversation, or is
we both were talking?
You actually did some talking?
Yeah, it was back and forth.
Okay. But he wasn't with y'all. He didn't show up later. He didn't come over to your house. Y'all didn't get back together the next day and all that. Do you know anything else that he supposedly did while he was in the house by telling you?
Not besides what he did and then burn it down.
Oh, you burned it down?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. That's kind of important.
Well, that's what I figured too. That when he said he said he burned it down and busted out of a window or something, which I didn't understand that because he went in the door while he got out the door. But he said that I guess after he did all that he lit the house on fire or something, or did something like that, lit the house on fire somehow in the kitchen.
You don't know if he burnt it. You don't know if he really burned the house down that night, right?
No,
he just told you that while you're riding back to your house that night?
Which, I mean, that's another thing, like, from fireworks, and the whole clouds smoke every which way, all night fall and all that, too, so. He put the house on fire or something.
Well, that was a hell of a night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did not expect that. I wish I'd have just stayed there. I didn't think any of that was going to go down, and just one night, the whole life flipped around.
Yeah, that's true. What kind of drugs do you use? You on that meth?
Once I've done a little bit of cocaine, smoked some marijuana, and drank some alcohol.
Welcome. Welcome to all the Earthlings. This is me, Piero, from my code laboratory. I see how this works. So this is an interesting thing. So that's what makes that go dark. So that's interesting. Oh, and me as well. Broadcasting live from here to everywhere else. A new kind of a show that's organically developed, that just is happening. It's a discussion show, but I'm willing to bring the discussion myself because it's a show. Okay, here's the deal. Before I get started, you hear that roaring? That's this volcano. This is live. This is from La Palma, an island volcano. In Spain, it's part of Spain. It's in the ocean. It's amazing. Been watching this for hours. I remember in the early days of the internet when webcams were a brand new thing. Geez, this must have been 98 or something. They had one of Etna, while Etna was erupting. A little Stromboli like that and some lava. day and night. It was super interesting to be watching into this other time zone, and still is, but in a way, I underutilized the live cams. Every few years, I'll start watching them for a while. Like there's wildlife cams around watering holes in Africa and things like that. And it's just amazing. When there was still light out and it was a little bit dark, you could see. Um, this seems, I think, right below the cone. Yeah, and there's a cone back there, and it was just flames. And something was on fire in there, like it was spitting out methane or something. There were flames. You can tell the difference between the liquid flame of lavas and flame of some burning up and billowing smoke. So here's what I wanted to talk about right now. I think the main thing about, I probably didn't title this stream right, but uh, the main thing I'm concerned with conservatives right now, and I don't really consider myself a liberal, but I have a bunch of positions that you would consider on the liberal side. So if you want to call it liberal because you checked off all the positions on subjects you've ever heard of, fine, but my own analysis has its own flavor. And when we talk about issues that aren't part of the talking points already, then you'd be surprised, right? We wouldn't fall down. It's only that people are all on this side of this issue, and then the other ones are on the other sides of all these issues. Like, what relates them? It's partly the pressure of people tell us what to do, what to think, and we give in to that. The more subtle it is, basically. So now, what it is I don't think conservatives are trying in the least to know liberal positions. Now, it's changed because I remember they did try to understand those positions, and I see now they understand the positions. An example of that would be Trump or other Republicans. They act like, well, Trump actually says the Democrats are all lockstep, but then he said things in debates with Biden where when Biden answered one way, he's like, oh, the Bernie wing's going to hate you guys for that, or hate you for that, or whatever. He knows there's splits inside this supposed monolith. He probably knows there's all these Jimmy Dore and always these other leftists, I guess, yeah, you can include Nader, that are outside the Democratic Party, at odds with them. They know it because they exploit it. But then again, it's getting harder and harder to see that because more and more people, it's like the people that know don't share the knowledge with other conservatives. Oh, here's what they really believe. Let me explain what they're really thinking. Which is like the art of war, and any kind of ruthless pragmatism still includes actually understanding the other side's real beliefs, how they see it. Good night. I'm on a stream. Oh, sorry. Shouldn't have yelled into the stream. Bad form. I'm still learning, you guys. So anyway, so understanding the other side. And it's interesting. I want to do that. I do that not just with politics, but with all kinds of extremism or weird ideas or just interesting ideas or even ordinary ideas. I'll watch all kinds of channels to see these other people's ideas. Plenty of non-ideological examples and ones that maybe seem ideological but might not be as ideological as you think or in the direction that you think. Like I've been watching First Amendment auditors, like Amagansett Press. It's a slight libertarian angle. Couldn't call it right wing, I don't think. And I don't really think it's exactly in one of these preformed political ideologies. It's definitely ideological. And if you watch any of those guys, you'll see there's more than one ideology, except for, screw this system trying to not let us have our rights. But even within that, there's just a wide spectrum of what partisanship of either of the two or any of the infinite possible parties that could mean in the broadest sense of the term. They're different political parties, partisan factions, different political factions. That's what I guess I'm trying to say. And yet it's still political, but as soon as it goes into that sphere, you can't just automatically say, oh, the person's voting this way or that way, or a lot of people like that are like, I have both parties, screw them. Now, when it comes to these major divisions that we know of as liberal, because of the issues that politicians run on and that the press talks about and people talk about a lot, I think that I study conservative positions from their own point of view pretty well. And I'll just spoiler, I'm saying what I want from conservatives that I'm not probably going to get, because this has just been getting worse and worse. This is something that you used to be able to get. So let me just put it this way, actually, that what's missing, the problem, in other words, because I'm not begging for this problem to be solved by the people that are creating it. So if you're not one of the people creating it, then you might want to hear and go, oh, that'll be easy to do, because I'm going to also make an offer of the same thing. Now, I think that I understand conservative positions pretty well for somebody that doesn't share those positions. I'm not anti-abortion. And I'll talk about that in a second, as an example. But I understand, I think, some of the motivations, or at least I've tried to imagine, and not just demonize, not just the worst motivations, but the whole spectrum. Some people it's this, some people it's that, some people it's the other. And I don't think that conservatives are doing this, or even worse, like I say, when they do know, they won't deny it because it seems better. And I'll tell you, for example, an example. Actually, I'm going to write this down. I made a little note because this is a thing I want to remember that this is part of the point, because we're going to have some continuity in this stream here. But, for example, they used to say, oh, the left is soft on crime. Hey, the left is soft on crime. Now, I didn't think that was fair in the sense that it was a simplification, but it represented, wanting to make, I don't know, prison sentences, more rehabilitation, whatever. You could characterize it that way. It might not be fair to characterize it that way, but it doesn't totally deny what the position is from the liberal point of view. Maybe they do want a more empathetic system, and you could call that soft, and you shouldn't, but okay, let's argue over that. But now it's like, no, liberals are pro-crime. Used to be we're soft on terrorism. Now it's, no, we want to actually institute Sharia law. See what I'm saying? There's no attempt to understand why there's a liberal position. So, with immigration as an example, I'll start with. So, I guess I started with the crime thing a little bit, but as far as digging in a little bit, immigration. I believe, I used to think you could call it open borders, but it's not really open borders. But at very porous borders. I basically think, they should check you for a criminal record and do a tuberculosis test or whatever when you come in to the country, when you cross a border, just like they can check if you have medfly in your oranges on the way into California. They should check that. But basically, if you don't have any of those issues, and if you do have the issues, it's not that they kick you out. It's just that they, hold you for the government that you've broken a crime with, that you're on the run from, to get you, or they put you in a hospital and cure you of the disease. Or if it's not communicable, they send you off. And in my world, there'd be, national health care, and you'd get treated, but you wouldn't have to be detained in quarantine while it happened. And I know people, I have relatives they're getting, more and more, seems extreme conservative to me. They say that's absurd, right? And that I want to do that because I want to destroy the country. As if I think that that would destroy the country. I obviously don't think it would destroy the country. I think it's good for the country. In fact, I take hits from the left because I honestly think part of it is we need that labor. Those are hardworking people. We need them to come help us get things done. And I believe that when you do that, you have growth, and the people that are here that do speak the language, that already have experience in those sectors, have a perfect chance to become a manager. If there's no growth, you'll just be the factory, regular factory person, forever, and never get a promotion or advance in that career. You'll just be stuck as a cog. As an idea of what I'm getting at, it's opportunity for everybody if those things are going to grow. Now, I believe we need to end up having a sustainable economy where the population doesn't grow forever. The population's already leveling out around the world, and in countries where it has leveled out, and even dipping in some European countries, for example, this is a way we will still have growth, is by taking other people's huddled masses yearning to be free. And it's better than sending our factories to countries where they don't have rights and no minimum wage. It's better they would come here, get educated, grow from freedom, right? And then their kids are in the same pool as all the other Americans, because that's how America works. And that's the American tradition. And you don't have to agree that it's still a good idea. The country got filled up is one thing I get told. We don't have more room now. Well, I've driven cross country. There's lots of empty space still. I know. But be that as it may, you could say, oh, we don't want to do it anymore. But you should acknowledge that this is the American tradition, having immigration. Right? We started off with I think 100 or almost 100 years of just, hey, you got here as long as we didn't have to bring you. Fine, just sign up. You're here. You're a citizen. Good for you. Get to work. Then they had the Chinese Exclusion Act, if I recall correctly, was the first one. I might not recall correctly. Corrections in the comments. And, but we still had open, basically kind of a racist filters to those laws, and also political and geopolitical and whatever. Fair to have those filters about like checking for crimes and what crimes count and stuff like that. And if you were part of the Nazi Party, or for that matter, the Communist Party leader in, I don't know, the Khmer Rouge or whatever, you could have whatever rules you want. We still had it open. In other words, they did a lot of kind of that filtering in the Ellis Island period. They would pull out the anarchist or whatever. But it was still what conservatives would call is this open immigration. And that's the tradition of America. So it's not absurd like, oh my God, the only reason you could want that is because you want to destroy the country. Now, you could say that it would destroy the country, but then doing the logical steps of, I have an opinion, therefore, for you to want what you want, oh, you must want the opposite of what my opinion says that would lead to. No, I don't want what your speculation leads to. I want what my speculation leads to. Now, I understand, I'll use abortion as an example of where, and most, certainly Democrats, but even leftists, all liberals, but certainly Democrats, they're not pro-abortion. This is a lie. They believe there should be a right to choose, but they're still kind of like, they don't like it. And that's why they've been able to be slapped around on the issue so much. But I've always understood, and some on the left say, oh, it's just to control a woman's body. I've always felt like, no, I know people that their assessment is it counts as a murder, that's a living life at the moment of conception. And you could say it's religious, though. Anyway, I'll get into that in a second. But whatever, it's their position, it's their take on that. And that's genuine. And I've known people that were anti-abortion that also, of course, they were Canadians, but anyway, that did a lot of charity work with single mothers, mothers that needed help. It's like they did care about the life after it was born. And to me, that's legitimate. Or the guy that told me, oh, I didn't talk about this, but one thing, for example, to understand conservatism is Josh Trevino, one of the guys that started Red State, and I had started a blog with him and another guy to have a left and right, uh, blog, discussion blog, um, told me about The Conservative Mind by Russell Kirk and about the roots of conservatism, which is really interesting, by the way, because it's not actually like we like all old stuff. It was also a modern progressive thing. They didn't support the monarchy. They didn't necessarily want to kill them all, and they liked the tradition, and let's still keep having Christmas and whatnot. But they wanted this transfer to what they thought was a meritocracy with the mercantile class would run things and make decisions, which is better than the royal concept that your wealth and your historic wealth made you a better person. They're like, no, hard work and the ability to keep the business together. And that's a democratizing concept in that the people doing the consuming are less wealthy than the people owning the businesses. So the people owning the businesses have to keep in tune with how those other people think and what they want and what they really need, is the theory. And whether you believe that theory now or it's played out or whatever, if you compare that to being pro-monarchy full on, it's somewhat progressive. That gave me a lot of insight on conservatism historically, but it also makes me think of real conservatism as not exactly what we're seeing among the people that call themselves conservatives in the U.S. and in a lot of the Western nations, at least. Right. So anyway, so I have this perspective of abortion that I think is pretty understanding. But then again, I see certain things now, and I feel that conservatives aren't giving, it's not even a benefit of the doubt, right? I'm not even asking for the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt would be for you to think that, the facts and figures and the history of America, and that there's weight to what I'm saying, that you would let it be somewhat convincing that, yeah, it is the American tradition, immigration. You might like it and not want to stop it. I mean, there's other American traditions, like we've been at war ever since the Indian War, the Revolutionary War, went to the Indian War, early Pacific conflicts, war, that's another American tradition. I don't necessarily say, hey, we have to keep doing it. But it would give weight, and that would be the benefit of the doubt. But I'm just talking a rational understanding that, of course, I am not supporting very liberal or even libertine immigration. I would totally support migratory workers. If people want to come up from Mexico or down from Canada and work in resorts or pick raspberries in Oregon, that would be fine with me. I think it would be good for Americans to compete for, those kind of jobs, because the Americans would have an opportunity for a lot wider spectrum of jobs than people that might come in and not understand the language, like French Canadians. So from my point of view, it's ludicrous to be thinking, oh, I want to give the country over to other people or stuff. And saying that is what makes it seem like, hey, maybe you are just being racist. Or maybe in the case of abortion, you are just trying to control a woman and you don't even know it or something. Right? Because why can you not understand there's another side of your position exactly? Right? And that's the way, and that wasn't like that 20 years ago. And mind you, 20 years ago, the way I see it, I'm not very forgiving of it. After Nixon, the Republican Party never recovered and went downhill. It was Ike and then Nixon, and boom, just worse and worse. So they never recovered. So 20 years ago, we're deeply into that. Okay, that was already happening. I was very unhappy with the way conservatism was going. However, more conservatives would acknowledge their understanding of the other side and engage in why they disagree, why we shouldn't do immigration now, in actual terms, meant to communicate in a republic with people that are not only allowed, but they're expected. You should expect other people are going to have different opinions. This is how it goes. 330 million people. Or you get 20 people together, they can't decide which pizzas to buy. Yeah, 310 million people, 330 million people, or whatever it is now. We're going to have it's going to break down into different groups. And you want to, and even if you're trying to defeat the other side, you wouldn't want to. But in a republic, you have to have a different attitude about defeat, and that's where this is going, which is we have to work together. Even if somebody thinks, no, I'll just have violent revolution take over, do my dictatorship. Well, have you seen history around the world? Does that go on forever? I'm sorry, I'm missing the 1,000-year Reichs. The Roman Empire lasted whatever it did, centuries and centuries and centuries, but it was actually 10 or 20. It was in constant conflict. Who was really in control was constant, just a constant war of bullshit. And that's what I was saying yesterday is, having legal systems doesn't mean you always have justice. It just means that less people die. When you actually have war breakouts, civil war, any kinds of war, and these kinds of things, or a breakdown of law, and it falls to your local warlords and whatever their level of benevolency is to protect an area or police an area or collect the taxes, or when you have a breakdown in that civil structure, there's more injustice. You can't wipe out the injustice of, say, hey, Gore was supposed to be president by having a civil war instead. Do you understand? Like, I thought that the Supreme Court decided wrong with that case. And the Florida Supreme Court, their ruling should have stood. But you know what? I was glad that these old wheels of the system would roll into place and we would have the Supreme Court to make that decision and avoid a civil war, because that was the kind of situation when you're waiting months to find out who won, where civil war and coups and all kinds of things will often break out in the history of the world, around the world, right up until today, including today. And we didn't seem in danger of that. Not at any point of that. And that was good. But now you have Trump stole a Supreme Court justice, got an extra couple. McConnell stole it. Trump spent it. He spent it the way they wanted, pretty much. And now we're setting up something where I can't even rely on those gears to save us from civil war, because if it's literally going to be rigged like that, like we have coming along in the next elections, where Arizona's made it so that, evidently from what I've read, Arizona has made it so that the state legislature can just override the vote of the people. Let's just go back a couple hundred years and we'll just have the legislature. So that's a violation of the system by which it's acceptable to take our losses as the lesser injustices, the unfairnesses as the lesser injustices, right? So, like, I don't expect it to happen. What's going on right now is it's getting worse and worse, and that's why I had talked about secession stuff, which I don't support anymore at the moment, because I think this is too crazy. I don't want to have this kind of situation on the other side of my border. This is like, okay, hey, the family's not happy, you should get divorced. But if the divorcee is going to live next door and it's just going to get worse and you're going to firebomb each other, then okay, let's live in the same house and we have to work this out one way or another. Really, because of the lack, you can't have another country, a neighboring country, doing this kind of thing. You actually want to destroy us by you having immigration or whatever. You actually are baby eaters. That's not, you have to be able to, and right now, and I'm not saying as individuals everybody understands the other side, but I could tell you, I know for a fact that Democrats study those conservative positions way more and have more sympathy with them and go, oh, don't do this, you'll piss off the conservatives. And the conservatives seem to be taking the tack that, oh, if we just don't admit we understand their ideas, we can just keep having them do that. Yeah, don't piss us off, don't talk about our guns and Bibles, stay off of that subject, taboo. as a scare tactic, which, that can't work forever, right? If you try to steal the republic or demonize people as though they want to destroy this country, they're for rape as long as a Muslim does it, and all this kind of a bullshit, at the same time that he was born in Kenya, his wife's a man, and just Pizzagate and that kind of stuff, you're not showing a lot of understanding, right? And you can think of that as a tactic and go, yeah, that's right, we're doing that. Haha, we're getting you. Look how successful it is. But I don't really think so. I think you're relying on sympathy, of which there can't be an infinite supply. Generation after generation, people will feel like like they're Charlie Brown and they've been Lucy'd with the football. So, that is the message of today. I hope you understood that I'm saying that it's important to understand other people's positions. Now, I do it as a hobby. I'm fascinated by it. You could even say, hey, it's not really that great. You're not doing it because you're a good guy. You're just curious. That's true. I've always liked writing stories and stuff. And it's like getting this stuff. It's like, oh, how do you live? What do you do? What are your attitudes? And, because you can make this stuff up. Truth is stranger than fiction and more interesting, and everything in fiction kind of has to come from it one way or another, no matter how sci-fied up it is. But I also believe that it's necessary for us to work this stuff out, and we don't have a choice but to work it out. Again, if some communist was to make a dictatorship, that's not going to make the other side disappear. If some fascist makes a dictatorship, it's not going to make the other side disappear. And let's respect each other enough to know that left or right, every American is pretty much doesn't want to put up with shit. And there is a line where many of them, well, it's not just the right, oh, don't push us. It's the left, everybody. We should not be trying to push people right into the edge of the corner because Americans are a bunch of mongoose. I don't know if you know, those guys you do not want to corner a mongoose. Now, does that mean I'm afraid of cornering you enough? No, because I'm a mongoose too. Fuck you. If it comes to it, well, let's just have the battle. That's what we want to avoid. Don't think your side was going to win the battle. I don't think my side's going to win the battle. We're all going to lose the battle. The only way we can win the battle is by maintaining this civil structure, which gets to the main issue, I think, which is conservatives are having future shock. And they don't like the fact that they can see that if they compromise in the system that we have, we're going to continue to have more men in dresses and stuff. Maybe not as much as the Democrats want, but it's like me in torture. I don't like compensating. Hey, let's have half the torture. You want this much? I want none. Let's go in the middle. I feel like it should be none. And so when you feel like things are going in that direction, you can feel this, I can't cooperate at all. But look, I'm shocked in the 2000s that we started discussing like, oh, okay, torture. Because I grew up like, America, did you know we never tortured, and even the Nazis, and we didn't torture them, and the Germans were, and Russian, or not the Russians, but the Germans were eager to surrender to the Americans, not the Russians. They fought them to the death because the Russians would slaughter their animals and torture them, and we would just imprison them and treat them by the Geneva Conventions, and it was a thing. People said they had no reason. We were never going to torture again. That wasn't who we were and all that. It's part of the American pride, and there was some truth to it. Unlike some of the myths we tell ourselves, there was some truth to that compared, to other armies. And even if there wasn't truth, even if somebody wants to prove in comments that was never true at all, I didn't expect that we'd just start discussing about, let's do torture. And in the intervening periods, we knew that in South America, the CIA and these special ops and advisors and stuff did torture and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's terrible. But then it got more and more, and it got more overt. Abu Ghraib came out, and it was like, that's terrible. And then, boom, it's like, no, there's a good reason for it. So that's going in the wrong direction. I don't like that. But I'm not having future shock about it. Like, oh my God, it's going to go on forever and be ever. I've got to cause a civil war to stop that, right? And the conservatives are having that problem. And again, I wish that we get over it. You should try to. You have your own reasons. Should have your be able to figure out your own reasons for understanding the other side from the other side's point of view. And if they're mistaken or silly or naive or any of those things, believe me, we think that about you too. But that doesn't mean you can't understand the other side from their point of view better than saying, "Oh, you must be wanting to destroy the country." Because you want something that you think is good for the country that I think will destroy the country, therefore you want to destroy the country. A plus equals B. It's bullshit. It's not doing anybody good. You're not going to convince anybody, and nobody's scared of it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, right? We should just calm down and look at it realistic. That's my position. Okay, so let's see. I see there's some comments over there. It looks like I'm a little comment indicator on the screen there, but too tiny to read. I have to go over to the other Bob. It's over here somewhere. Okay. Ouch, my ears. Oh, sorry, Kay. That's probably when I yelled to my wife. She was saying, "Oh, good night." She's going to bed. Sorry about that. Blew that. Theodore Hyatt Tower. If you want to understand where a particular ideology comes from, you need to actually live it, e.g., surrounding yourself with its proponents, going to their events, watching propaganda, etc. I mean, a little bit, but you can't really do that. So that can't be necessary. You can always try to understand it to whatever degree by talking to people and listening to people and empathizing and having an imagination that can follow the narrative of other people's stories. And if you have ways to verify those stories and more than one of those stories and you add it together and you don't be a fool about believing the first person or thinking expertise is holy and things like that, then I actually think, while you're making a good point, that's a good way to do it. Like I liked living in Oakland for years, African American town. You going into the stores and stuff and sections that you see and you start to feel the culture, music in the streets, people, how they talk to you, whether they say hi or not, and everything else. You learn other cultures, but you still don't know about like this family, that family, this neighborhood and stuff. So it's very limited how much you can live in how many. You only have one life, right? So I think we have to actually be able to listen to other people's stories, narratives, not bad narratives, but their narrative. It's one line down the mountain. There's many ways to express what has happened or what it's like to live in a particular city, because there's millions of people. That means there's millions of ways. And people's individual narratives, which come from their own experiences, or their own shared experiences, because they're told stories, they know what's going on around them, they know the attitudes of the people in their family, that you should be able to get an idea. And you have to make sure you're not trying to misunderstand, to just put other people in a bad light. And I think that's a little bit what happened, right? Like they're soft on crime, when in reality they were all voting to raise the number of cops and guns and stuff. And all this kind of hard on crime things, tough on crime stuff. But they were looking for a way to make it sound bad so they could win. And it's like, well, when one wears out, when you do that and it's just rhetoric, and then it gets, they've heard that before, it's got to get worse. Now they're pro-crime. Now they are the criminals. Now they're in a huge cabal that runs all the criminals, and the criminals run all the county courthouses, or whatever. All right. In other words, I don't think it's possible to approach an ideology from a purely intellectual perspective. Well, you can't just imagine from watching a movie or something. Yeah, you have to talk to people. Plus, there's statistics that can give you insight onto what people are telling you. If for example, when I was young, I was long-haired. I thought cops were looking out for me a little more than ordinary. We would have to look at the statistics. Long-haired, young, hippie-looking kids get any extra attention? I actually honestly don't know. I do think the working class does. Anybody that doesn't look rich does, but you know, And African American friends are telling me, oh yeah, the cops are really hard on African Americans. Well, I had a lot of statistical evidence, right? So my own sense that there was a similarity. Oh yeah, this line on my head Dinah Cat asked about. It's a shadow, or I'm sweating. Maybe it's a sweat line, but I think it's because all the light in the room was off the screen. Um, but which actually I like better. But anyway, um, this is the purpose of why I'm online. I'm monitoring culture. I would like to bring that down to the individual level, which I have. I was happy yesterday when a lot of familiar names showed up. And if it's going to take an hour for people to show up, it's funny because that's how it used to be in my streams. I'd often spend an hour in there trying to, hey, come time to, because it was just a conversation, a call. But the nice thing about the stream is, okay, if it's built this way, then okay, I could be patient. But me having time to do hours and hours long stream, I don't know. I would have to. But if I knew second hour on there was a reliable conversation, I'd probably do it because that's what I want to know. I don't think I can intellectually simulate other people's opinions without listening to them. But if I listen to them a lot, I can start to understand them. I can have fragments that apply where my own experiences can help me relate to it, and I can also learn, just like people have these fictional experiences of what it's like in the MCU or whatever. I don't know if the MCU is what it's called, you know what I mean. um, then they can do that with other people's situations instead of trying to paint other people's situations into a corner as to what it is and then characterize it a certain way so that they can convince certain people that, hey, these guys are all Marxists. So, to be honest, I just wanted to express that because the whole idea of imagining that, oh, this, I'll do something good, I'll ask the society to please do this, maybe you hadn't noticed that you were, you were intentionally misunderstanding your opponent's positions. Maybe it didn't occur to you. I don't believe that. That would be naive. So, I really just wanted to express this and put it on the table because this is the Dynacats in the Discord put up an interesting article about some evidence and up to date concept of, yeah, the civil conflict is coming. Is it actually going to arrive? I hope not. I'll do everything I can to stop it, except surrender. Right, so you need to understand that. Just like you feel that way, if you're one of the conservatives hate watching this, you don't want to surrender either. Well, nobody's asked you to surrender. You're still free. You got the torture prisons, the drone bombs, the border policy is still way more restrictive than it traditionally has been in America. You're getting your way in a million ways. You shouldn't expect that you could push it forever. And I certainly don't expect the left should push it. Well, I mean, push it forever is the wrong way to put it because you can try to migrate things in the directions you want. You can try to do that forever. The point is, you can't steamroll or ignore other factions in the republic. That's not how the republic works. And in our case, you cannot also be allowed. That's right, allowed to get away with steamrolling democracy. Okay, where if Arizona, that happened to elect a Republican legislature, votes for a Democratic president, and the legislature can just go, we think they made a mistake there. You can't subvert the civil system. That is what allows us to avoid the civil war over things like this. And you need to understand that. And it would help if you didn't demonize your opponents and didn't intentionally misunderstand them. Now, as I said, I want to understand conservatives, but you might think I'm misunderstanding you guys still. And I'm sure you do, and I would like you to explain that. I believe that your ability to perceive messages might reveal to you that in something the way that I explain, here's what I think conservatives think, that it's not what you think. And all I'm asking for is the trust. The only little bit of trust is that I want to know, and I'm going to memorize what you say you think in your own words. And if it's something that I go, oh, I agree with that, then I'll be like, oh, I actually agree with that. And there's examples in my YouTube history even of that kind of thing. I would say, like, but probably I'm going to go, oh, I don't agree with that, but I'll be clear on what I disagree with and my creativity about, well, how about we do this in the middle? Or if you are creative and say, well, how about we do this in the middle? I'll be willing to. For example, the Romney Care Plan. Instead of a big single payer or a UK type system or something. I would have had a public option in it, but okay, compromise. You think this medical market is okay with you? I just want national health care. I want every person in the country to be able, including tourists and everybody, to get health care when they're in the United States, the richest country in the world, that I'm very happy and proud of and don't think has been destroyed yet. Or really is going to be destroyed. I think, well, I don't want to open a can of worms about what could or couldn't destroy the country, and what that would even mean. The point is, um, go ahead and tell me if you have something. And again, I'm really just expressing the desire to get that information. Things are just getting worse and worse. Uh, the right doesn't want to cooperate with the left. The left, insofar as it does want to cooperate with the right, like the Democrats that still want to do that, or the Mansions, or even the rhetoric of Biden, it's like they don't want to. You're just going to get played that way. So neither side can do that, and that's what has to be resolved. And by has to be resolved, I don't mean, oh, please resolve it. No, I mean the hard way, the easy way, whichever way, that will all get resolved, right? So I think I'm going to go. Oh, hey, Earl. Earl, I'd love to have you on stream. The line on my head is where you can see how much I can handle. Hey, buddy. Yeah, all right. All right, take it easy, you guys. It's not quite an hour, but sort of an hour. And search this. This is Reuters has this up. This TV Canarias. This is live. This volcano is happening right now. Except for if you're, well, probably know. I don't know. If you're watching a replay of the stored video, then it's not live. But if you're watching live right now, that's live. That's a volcano going right now. It's just amazing. That is a ton of stone, just 24 hours a day. It's almost reached the ocean, I guess. An amazing display. Too bad about all the destruction, man. Living in Hawaii, I've always, loved, volcanoes for their beauty or whatever, the powerness or whatever, the powerfulness of them. But living in Hawaii also put me really in touch with, it and just how destructive. I know, in Hawaii there's the romance of volcanoes and Pele, but I knew hippies that, it's like they'd had it up to here with the romance about Pele comes and takes what she wants, because they saw so many friends lose, hundreds and hundreds of homes in the Puna district in Hawaii during the 80s when the lava went down there, and the black sand beach down there. And of course that happened just a couple of years ago. I still have a lot of relatives living over there. Probably going to go visit again soon, and they're just awesome. As a destructive forces go, at least they generally, this kind, the lava kind, let you get out of the way. But they sure are beautiful. If you can ever go see lava up close, I highly recommend it. It's nothing like it. You can kind of imagine what it's like, but when you actually get near it, it's pretty amazing. All right. I will say goodbye. I will sign out with a tiny bit of time so that it doesn't clip off anything. Oh, I should have gone over here. Well, if anybody ever goes to that Discord, well, there are people in there, but while I'm broadcasting, you broadcast and go to the broadcasting text, and it'll show up there, and then I'd see you were there. And then I could bring you on from there. See, if people go in the Discord, I should probably promote. I should write down, and I should record an intro probably, and I should write down things to remember for like, hey, things I want people to do. Here's a reminder. But this thing's really too hot. It's been very warm at night. We're having fall weather, but it's 70s, and it's like 70s all night. And anyway, so sweating a little bit. But lost my train of thought. But I was just remembering I should promote the fact if you go to the Discord, then you can come on. So you hate watchers that have something to say, come on the Discord. And I won't even kick you if you're not threatening type person. There's a wide latitude in the Puroverse and the Illusions Exist universe, and you could have your say and no doubt win all the arguments of all time. So you should do that. All right, take it easy, everybody, and we'll just go out here with a little bit of. Let's see, what we'll do is a little bit of classical music, I think. Let's see. Where do I have that? Is it over here? Oh, I think I might have closed it. Doesn't really matter, but there's that. Okay. Start that guy up.
April 19th, 1992.
April 19th, 1992.
Huh?
You don't know when you're old.
America's masterpiece moment.
Oh, shit.
Our
Okay.
Executive Director and CEO, Roxana.
Nobody else. You don't know where that gun went.
Mm-mm.
I have no idea. He never talked about it again.
No, I'm just assuming he threw it in the water, either in my pond or in the river or somewhere like that.
What'd you do with the gun you had?
I left it at my house. At my house on point. My house in Old Minneapolis.
Right. But you had that gun with you the night of robbery, huh? But you didn't use it.
No, I didn't even pull it out of my pocket. It was just a little 22.
Got stolen too?
I think so.
Goddamn, you steal everything?
No, I come across I've known everybody since I moved here, and that's how I made my living. Is I know everybody that needs to know this or that, and let's say they make guns, or I know people that buy them or use them. That's how I've always got by. I've been alone. I just managed not to be in trouble, not to get too stupid or do anything until this.